and grow in patience and peace. And I'd now like to present to you Christine McCarthy, my dearest friend. By the way, Christine used to be at Merrill. This is when I first met them, and she and her husband became North Central Region formators. They were trained. They came to Green Bay and they did their training here, and we've had great times since then. So, my good friend Christine McCarthy.
Thank you. Jeannie Harper, the one and only. Alrighty, so my job, I'm the nuts and bolts person. How do you take spirituality, friendship, service to the poor, and put it into action? And so we're going to go through some things, but first, like Jeannie says, this is St. Vincent de Paul. And just to give you a little funny story, I thought this would be a really good prop, so I got on Amazon and I ordered a 3-legged stool that I could sit on the stage and then talk about spirituality, friendship. When the box came, I thought maybe this wasn't exactly what I thought I had in mind. So anyways, this is my 3-legged stool. I won't be sitting on it, but one leg is spirituality. You can see that back there. And then we have friendship and we have service. And they're all part of this one body. Have we heard that before? 3 parts in one? So let me ask, first off, I'm going to do the opposite of what Jeannie said. And she said, turn your phones off. Would you all please get your phones out and turn them on? And bring up your timer. This section right here, I want you to set your timer for 25 minutes. Don't hit go yet. This section here, set your timer for 30 minutes. When I say go, hit your timer and hit start. Get on your marks, get set, go. Okay, that's my telling when I'm done. It's the coolest sound you've ever heard when everybody's phones go off. So anyways, I did this at Regional and it was kind of fun. So anyways, back to the 3 basic tenets of St. Vincent de Paul. Let me ask a question. How many signed up for St. Vincent de Paul because I would really like to pray more? That's what I thought. How many signed up for St. Vincent de Paul? It took away my punchline. How many signed up for St. Vincent de Paul because you wanted more friends? You all signed up for St. Vincent de Paul because you wanted to help people. But that's only one part of this. And now I have my point to make. I got to fix my stool. If you take away one of these parts, they're still helping the poor down here, but you no longer have a stool that works. Helping the poor by itself doesn't work. If you take friendship out of there and you have prayer and helping the poor, it still doesn't work. The big stool would have been better. But anyways, you need all 3 legs to make St. Vincent de Paul work. That's where they all come together. Because not one person raised their hand they did it for praying or because they wanted more friends. But how many have been enriched by the prayer life of St. Vincent de Paul? How many have read that gospel reflection with your Vincentians as a group and you go, wow, that hits right here. I know exactly what they're talking about. I'm not alone feeling that way. That was the bonus that a lot of us didn't expect. But you have to have all 3 or your stool will fall over, I promise. Okay, so there's the stool with the legs on. So now I'm going to try and relate these 3 basic tenets. How do you turn that into real life? Okay? First off, there's a disclaimer. This is the world only according to Chris, okay? I'm not an expert. I don't have a degree in Vincenology or anything like that. I'm a district council president over 23 conferences. I was a district council president in the Diocese of Superior before we moved. And so I have a little bit of experience, but it's still the world according to Chris. I will be wrong. I'm humble. We all make mistakes. I'm a veterinarian by trade, and our motto in school was often wrong, but never in doubt. So I'm adamant about what I'm teaching, but I also know it might not all be right. So anyways, and I'm a firm believer in the rule. I'm a governance person. I really think Frederick got it right the first time. I have people tell me, we need to change the rule. It's outdated. I think the rule's pretty darn good, and I respect it. And I'm a firm believer in KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I have 2 programs we're going to talk about tonight. They both just have 2 words in them. So if you can tell me at the end what those 2 words are, I'll give you a prize. I'm going to give you a stool, a broke stool. No. Okay. So how do we translate, we need growth and revitalization? What does that mean? How do you go back and go, okay, we're going to have growth and revitalization tonight. What do you do with that? How do you translate that into real action? And I find that kind of confusing. So I've decided when I became president a year ago, on the 23 conferences, I was going to go out to each one and see where they're at. I need to know, what are you doing? When we set up our conference at St. Joe's in Sturgeon Bay, and yes, I do live in God's country, and I understand that, and I love it. Come visit me anytime. But we went to the priest, and my husband had been conference president in Merrill for 20 years. I was district council president in Superior Diocese. So we went to the priest, and they didn't have a St. Vincent de Paul. It was way up in the northern part of Door County, 30 miles away. They were praying for somebody to come to Sturgeon Bay to do home visits, and so they didn't have to drive 30 miles. Well, we moved to Sturgeon Bay, and they answered to their prayers, but there was no St. Vinny's there. We went to our priest, we said, this is what St. Vinny's does. We were excited about it, and he looked at us and he goes, how do I say no to this? So if you're going to talk to your priest, be excited, tell them all the good things. They were overwhelmed. People would come to the office. They had a committee that would look at the requests once a month. So if somebody needed help with utilities, they needed help with rent, once a month it got looked at, okay? And then we called, one lady we called the next day, or the same day she called into us, she goes, you mean I don't have to wait a month to get help? It's like, no, we're here right now. And so they were thrilled to get rid of that. The committee was glad to turn it over to us. Be positive about what you can do. Be positive about your home visit. That is the heart and soul of being a Vincentian. If Jeannie hasn't pounded that into your head, I will. Being a Vincentian means we go to them. In the rule book, I believe it's part 3, chapter 9, up on the left-hand page, it says, we go to them in their environment. I had somebody stand up in a meeting and say, it doesn't say anywhere in the rule we have to do a home visit. I go, part 3, chapter 8, at the top of the page, it says, we go to their environment because not all of them have homes. Some are in their cars, some are in a tent along the river, some are sleeping under a tree. We have 20 of them every night in a park in downtown Green Bay. You go to their environment. Frederick made another quote, you climb, and here I am quoting Frederick in front of the expert out there, but Frederick said, you climb the garret to where they live. You feel the cold where they sleep. You sit in their cold rooms. That's when you understand what they're really going through. Home visits are crucial, okay? So that little speech is done. So now the first 5 questions when I get to a conference, and I can ask these questions and tell you right away, is it a vibrant, alive conference? Is it just getting by, or is it on life support? And I will tell you, out of my 23, I have the whole gamut. Some of them, they're deader than a doornail. They don't do home visits anymore. They don't do anything spiritual, but they're still Vincentians. They'll take phone calls and they'll send off a utility check. That's not being Vincentian. So my goal for the next year is revitalization of all these conferences. We're going to do it through training. We're going to do it through invitation to serve. But as I go down the list, if they answer these questions, I can tell you, where are they at? Do they do home visits? And I have some saying, no, we don't do those anymore. We all got too old. We don't want to do them anymore. Okay. The next thing is, what percentage of the Vincentians in the conference are doing home visits? I'm a statistics person. I just like numbers, so I'm going to keep track if it's 50 or 75%. Where do they run on that gamut? Because I have 2 conferences with 14 members each, and only 4 people do home visits. And I will show you, there's always a place in the conference for people who can't do home visits anymore. They're in walkers, they have immune disease, they can't do that. There's plenty for them to do, but 75% of a conference doesn't not do home visits just because it's not convenient. So we need to get them, why don't you want to do home visits? We need to get them doing home visits again, because that's where you feel the Vincentian spirit. What are they doing for spirituality? They don't do the gospel readings. I had one say, our president gave us this one little prayer on the yellow card. This is the only thing we're supposed to pray at every meeting. I went, oh my gosh, how boring. There are so many cool Vincentian prayers out there. We change ours out every meeting. We have a new one, and we have a dry erase board in our room where we meet, and we put a saying up that either Frederick said or St. Vincent de Paul said. Change it up, make it interesting. But they said, no, we were told we had to do this yellow card every single meeting. That's all we pray. You know, you got to be creative. You got to spice it up a little bit. There's just I have a whole 3-ring binder full of prayers for opening prayers, closing prayers. I don't know what prayers. There's prayers everywhere in there. So you have to do the spirituality, and we'll talk a little bit more about that individually. The gospel reflections on the National St. Vincent de Paul site for your weekly meetings are so good. You do the gospel reading, you do a reflection, you do the Vincentian reflection. That's better than you just get out of any book. If you're not doing those, I highly recommend that you start doing them at your meetings, because they're wonderful Vincentian-centered reflections, and they really make you think. We have the best discussions in our conference when we start doing those. And we meet weekly, by the way, and that's the next thing. How often do you meet? The rule says you meet every week. They will be okay if you only meet twice a month. Not thrilled, but they'll be okay with that. I would say half my conferences have only been meeting once a month. I get COVID. COVID kind of changed everything, but now we're trying to get them back. And then I hear, nobody wants to meet that often. Do you have a prayer reflection? Well, no, we do this little prayer on the card. I can tell you what's missing. They're not having the friendship. They don't meet often enough to get to know each other. So if you're on vacation for one week, you've now gone 2 months without seeing your Vincentians. Where's the spirituality? Where's the friendship in that? The weekly meeting is crucial. And I know if you're starting a new conference, it's real easy to do. We started both of our conferences in Maryland and Sturgeon Bay. Do you want to join our conference and be a Vincentian? We meet every week, and we do a home visit on everybody that calls us. It was set up that way from the very beginning, and it's been that way ever since. We meet every week. Do you miss them once in a while? Everybody does, but that's okay, because next week there's another one. You're not waiting 2 months for the next meeting. So it's easier to set it up. I'm finding in Green Bay, it's very hard to take a conference that's been doing it this way for 10 years saying, now you have to switch and do it this way. But I know they will love being a Vincentian even more if they do that. If they get the friendship part back in it, they get the spirituality part back in it, and they start doing the home visits. The last one, how long has the president been in office? You would think that wouldn't be a tough one. When I came to Green Bay, I had a president declare, I'm president for life. I said, no, you're not. You're done. You are not president for life. And he literally ran his conference into the ground. They're dead. I went there, and there's 4 people. One guy kind of came and said, oh, I'm going to go to another meeting. It's more fun, and he left. And they don't do any home visits, and I'm like, this isn't even a conference. But he was so proud. He's president for life. And I'm like, there's a benefit to fresh blood, and we're going to get to how to use servant leadership. We're going to talk about that if I don't run out of time. But those are the things that you look at. And these came off of the Standards of Excellence, best thing that National has done in a long time. All my conferences had to do Standards of Excellence. We're going to take those, and my goal within the next year is all my conferences will meet the minimum standards. You got to have a goal, and it's got to be, if I told them they had to do it by next month, I would be down the road. But anyways, I'm giving them a year. They got to start meeting at least twice a month. They got to start doing home visits. They got to start doing some friendship. So that's where the district council comes in. How can you make them come together as friends more? One other thing I did is we have a little crucifix, and my husband, who's a great Vincentian, by the way, his dad got him in 1964 in Chicago when he got home from the Marine Corps, and he became a Chicago cop. And his dad was conference president in Chicago, and they did all their meetings in the evening because all the men, only men at the time, worked all day long. And so he asked Dennis if he would join the conference, not because he wanted to introduce him to being a Vincentian, but because in Chicago at night, it wasn't always safe, and all Chicago cops, it was mandatory you wore your gun 24 hours a day. So he knew Dennis would be packing heat when he went out on the home visit with them, just in case. But anyways, it carried over, and now he's a wonderful Vincentian. So, but anyways, and I lost my point of thought there, but anyways, okay, we're going to move on to spirituality. Jeannie's going to keep me on task. So what can you do to create the spirituality? You go on the conference level, go to Mass together. Our meetings are Friday morning. We have an 8:30 Mass. We all go to Mass, and our meeting starts at 9:15, and then we do our weekly meeting. Gospel reflections at the meeting. Please, please, please use those. Use thought-provoking prayers for opening and closing meetings. Don't do the same one over and over and over again. I love going to meetings because I come home with a plethora, one of my favorite words, of new prayers. Everybody starts a meeting with a different prayer. I collect them all. They're wonderful. And use music. Jeannie's big on music. I love the music she picks. So that's on a conference level. So if you want to get growth and revitalization in your conferences, Ask those questions and start working on them. Go to the minimum standards, get everybody on the same page, and get them excited about being a Vincentian and get them excited about doing home visits. Nothing will change you more. When I get all wore out, and I go to lots of meetings, this is at the end of 3 meetings this morning I had before I came here, I'll go home to my husband, who's our coordinator for home visits, and I'll walk in the door and go, I need a home visit and I need one right now. Remind me why I'm doing all these meetings. I want a home visit. You know, and so that revitalizes me. When you go to a home visit, you're always changed by them. And it's just the best thing about being a Vincentian is the home visit. So on a district level, so now you've got your conferences fixed. You're going to make sure they start meeting more often. You're going to make sure they get the spirituality going. You're going to make sure that they're going to Mass together. You're going to make sure that the president hasn't been there longer than 6 years. And it was funny because all of a sudden everybody's changing presidents once I took office. It's like, okay, we're going to have an election now. So work on your conferences that way. As a district council president, we weren't doing anything as a group except meeting once a month, going through all the business and the financials and then going home. We started doing food at our district council meeting, and Julie did a great job today for food for you. But then we started getting together, and then we came up with some activities. And the first thing we did, and this goes back when we asked our parish priest, it was just ask. Remember those 2 words because they can open up doors for you. Don't be afraid to just ask. The second time it happened to me, back up one more. You went too fast, one more. I just want to tell you, this is Tim Williams, the one in the top hat that looks like Frederick Ozanam. He's our National Spiritual Formation Director. I heard him at mid-year meeting, and I was supposed to put a spiritual retreat together, and I heard him at our mid-year meeting, and no one believes this, my husband is, I'm a shy person. I'm very shy, and so it's hard for me to go up and talk to people. I'm uncomfortable, but I heard his spiritual reflection. It was about an hour long, and I walked out of the room going, I want him to do a retreat, but he's head of the national formation, doesn't know me. It didn't matter. I went running up to him like a school kid. Mr. Williams, could I ask you a favor? Would you come to Green Bay and do a spiritual retreat for me? And he looks at me like, who's this crazy lady? He goes, yeah, I can do that if we can make the date work. I said, we'll make the date work. It took like 3 different phone calls, and he came and did a wonderful retreat. It was fantastic. If you've never heard him talk or do a retreat, get into one of his meetings. He does a fantastic job. But here we have in Green Bay the National Spiritual Formation Director, and he was wonderful. Just ask. And I kind of got that after asking the priest. Well, then this encouraged me to just ask even more. This comes to the next one. I'm on a plane coming back from the national meeting in Baltimore, and my executive director, Bill Gussie's with me, and my husband. We get to Detroit. We got to switch planes, and we're getting on the plane. A big guy goes ahead of us, and my executive director comes up next to me, and he goes, do you know who just got on the plane? I said, yeah, some big guy in shorts. He must be freezing. It's September. He goes, that's John Runyon, offensive lineman for the Green Bay Packers. We have been trying for years to get a Green Bay Packer to hook up with our St. Vincent de Paul, to be a spokesman, to come do something, and he just got on the plane. I'm like, really? That was a Packer? Okay, he was a big guy. I thought he was just cold. So anyways, we got on the plane. Luck would have it, and this is the Holy Spirit working, I'm 3 seats in front of him. So I know I'm ahead of him. I Google him on my phone. I'm taking pictures of him over my shoulder. Then I start Googling him for 45 minutes on the plane. I found he went to Michigan. I found that he's from Philadelphia. His dad was a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and he went to St. Joseph Catholic High School in Philadelphia, and I went, wow, this is a God moment. But what am I going to do? And I'm like, what do you do? And it was a month before I was even installed as president. But in our meetings, I had learned that we had 60 homeless families living in their cars in Green Bay the year before. And I thought of these kids in the car. Even before I took office, it's like, I want to do something for them. I don't know what it is, but I just feel called, like, we need to do something for those kids. So anyway, I'm sitting on the plane going, what have I got to lose? Just ask. So I get off the plane first. As he comes off the plane, I grab him by the elbow and I say, hi, are you John Runyon, a Green Bay Packer? And he looks down at me and goes, yes, I am. I said, I just want you to know, I'm Chris McCarthy. I'm a new president of Green Bay District Council. And I said, I Googled you on the plane, and I saw that you went to St. Joseph Catholic High School. Did you pay attention during social justice teaching when we're supposed to help the poor? And he goes, yeah, I did. I said, did you know there's 60 families living in their cars with kids in Green Bay? and I didn't have a plan yet, I didn't have an event, but I said, if I do something, would you be interested in helping us? And he just kind of smiled and goes, yeah, I think I would. I'm like, really? I couldn't believe it. At that time, Bill Gussie gets off the plane behind me, and he's walking by me going, as I'm standing there talking to John Runyon. So anyways, it gets a little crazier, and it shows you what a crazy, should I tell the second part? Okay. Some of you have heard it already if you're at Regional. So anyways, I have my picture taken with them. That's us in the airport as we got off the plane. So, and I said, you know, let me take a picture. I will text you if you give me your number and trust me. I'll text you so when it comes through, you'll remember me as a crazy lady in the airport. So he writes his number into my phone. He goes out the door. We go down to baggage claim. And so I'm texting the number to him to get him my picture right away. It doesn't go through. I'm short a number. And I'm like, oh no, if I lose him now, I will never see him again. You can't contact hackers, you just don't call them up, you gotta go through. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose him. So there's my husband with the baggage. I said, you stay here, I gotta run outside and try and find John. So I go running to the parking lot, and it's acres, I don't see anybody. I don't know where he is. So I don't know if you remember Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate screaming at the church doors, Elaine. There I am at the top of my lungs, John, John. I really felt like a crazy lady. All of a sudden he comes running out he goes, what? I'm like, and I go, I tried to put your number in, it doesn't work. And I said, let me just say this, if you did that on purpose to get rid of me, I will turn around and walk in the airport, you'll never see me again. He goes, no, I really wanted to give you my number. So he came over, punched it in, I got his number, I sent the picture. 2 days later, he was in the St. Vinny's office. Bill and I sat there for an hour talking to him all about St. Vincent de Paul. And what he said was, I was trying to find a way to give back and I didn't know what it was. This is it, St. Vincent de Paul. He said, so just asking, he not only helped us, we helped him. Just ask. Anytime you think, I wonder if they want that, just ask. So now he did cleats for charity for us. He painted his cleats blue, St. Vincent de Paul. And then so we did come up with an event for the homeless kids called Believe. And we brought all the kids into St. Norbert College. We had the whole building, the gymnasium. We gave them a full dinner. We had card making, cookie making. They had a room where they could pick out presents for their parents. No, they don't want to give their parents socks and wallets. They want to give their mothers perfume and soap and jewelry. And the parents had a room they could pick out presents for the kids. They all got wrapped when they went home. They had a room for winter clothes. And John Runyon came and he brought 3 rookie Packers with him. Zach Tom, Luke Tenuta, and Caleb Jones, who is 6'9", size 18 shoes. So we had 3 Packers there for the whole afternoon. He has since said, whatever I can do to help you. Last Saturday, he led our Friends of the Poor walk in Sturgeon Bay. It's on the national page. With our new pastor, they were both carrying the banner for Let's Help Others. And he said he's gonna do his cleats for charity, and our next Believe, he's coming back. So just ask, that's all it takes. Okay, let me just show you this. What else can you do for people? Am I out of time? Nobody's alarm went off. Okay, anyways, so what else can you do for people like that aren't able, I think, is there one more before this one? Oh, okay, look at this one up here. That's me between John Runyon and Caleb Jones. And I'm on my tiptoes with clogs. So, but then he came to our last event last year, our Friends of the Poor walk, was signing autographs for 2 hours and made us $1,000. So there's our conference, and then the 3 other Packers that came with them. They sat and did autographs. They ran all the kids through. I said, make the kids Green Bay Packers for 10 minutes, run them through your pregame warm-up before the game against the Rams tomorrow night. So they took him out in the gymnasium, ran him through this. It was wonderful. Okay, next one. This is another event that we did for the homeless that we have in a park. This is for adults. These 3 ladies up here, 2 are in walkers. So you say, what can we do? They can't do home visits, they're in walkers. Find an event. They were our bingo callers. So we did a pizza pie and pop party for the homeless. There were like 30 homeless there. They loved bingo, but these ladies were thrilled. We gave them a purpose. So not everybody can keep doing home visits. If there's 10 in a conference not doing them, I guarantee they can do them. But you're gonna get people that can't, but we need to find them a purpose. So give them a purpose like that. Okay, now we're almost, okay. This is another fun one. And So now we know that you're going to make friends. This is the friendship part. Now, servant leader. Okay, there's a great John Wayne story. My husband and I use it all the time. Some guy came up to John Wayne and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sad. Billy down the road just got shot and died." John Wayne said, "Everybody's going to die. It was his turn." So when you think of servant leadership, just think, it's your turn. Everybody's going to get a turn. Sort of like everybody's going to die. So we have somebody die and go, it was his turn. Servant leadership is the same way. Everybody's going to get a turn, okay? That's the only way the society keeps going on. But now I want to tell you about another program, and this is called I Will. Okay, don't change it yet. Oops. Okay. So anyways, does everybody have to be a conference president? No, because not everybody wants to. Some are scared to death of it. But I want everybody to raise their hand, raise your right hand, and say, I will. So when the president gets elected and he goes, I don't know what I'm doing, I got to do the annual report, is there anybody that can help me with it? I will. I've got to do this event, I don't know what I'm doing, who can help me with that? I will. If every conference had 2 I will people, that no matter what you ask, they raise their hand, can you help? I will. Do you know how much better conference presidents would feel? They feel isolated. They feel like they get elected, they don't know how to do everything. There's conference reports, there's treasurer's reports, there's audit. I don't know how to run a meeting. But if they know they have 2 people in your conference who can help me with that? That's my 5-minute warning. I will. All you have to be is the I will person, okay? Everybody can do that. I don't care if it's the lady in the wheelchair. If they're going to do an annual report, say, can I sit in and see how you do that? So next year when we have a new president and they say, can anybody help me with this? What are you going to say? I will. Okay? I guarantee you will get more leaders if they know they have support. One of the problems and one of the things I hear why people don't want to be, I don't know what I'm doing. This guy's done it for 30 years, I can't do it. I'll tell you one more really good I will story and then I'm done. I'm a veterinarian by trade, and I wouldn't do talks in school all the time, and people would always say, what's the most exotic animal that you ever worked on? And I get to say, Bridget, a lowland gorilla. I had to go draw blood on her. And because when I was in vet school, I went to Ohio State, so we had the Columbus Zoo, Jack Hanna's Columbus Zoo right there. I was on a rotation with Dr. Gardner, our zoo animal vet. He goes, who wants to go in there and draw blood? I raised my hand and said, I will. Everybody else could have, I was the first one up. Don't even hesitate. Say I will for everything. You get to do such cool things. So I said, I will. So he and they tranquilized Bridget. We went running into the cage. He said, and of course I was an ER nurse for 5 years first, so drawing blood was a piece of cake. And we did a femoral stick. I got the blood out. We ran out and I'm like, I just touched a lowland gorilla named Bridget. It was the coolest thing ever. Fast forward 16 years. I'm in Wausau at the Grand Theater. And who's the guest this night? Jack Hanna from the Columbus Zoo. My daughter's with me, who's 16, 17, thinks her mom's okay, but still her mom. And so I have a book from when I was in vet school that Jack Hanna wrote, his very first one. I want him to sign it for me. So there's a big sign, Jack will only sign his new books, don't bring old copies. I said, Katie, let's go to the very end of the line and wait and be the last ones through. This is what I will get you. So we get up to Jack Hanna, and I said, I just want you to know, I drew blood on Bridget, the lowland gorilla at the Columbus Zoo, and that was one of the highlights of my career. He went, you drew blood on Bridget? Bridget was crazy. So we sent her to a breeding program in New York to get rid of her. And I said, and I did it with Dr. Gardner. And my daughter's standing there, he's waving everybody. She drew blood on Bridget. All his staff that came with him to the show, he's calling them all over to meet me because I drew blood on Bridget. And my daughter's just like, and Jack Hanna's got his arm around me, he wants a picture taken. You never know what I will get you, okay? My daughter will never forget that story. So who's gonna offer up next time somebody says, who can help me? I will, okay.